Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Whole Picture Podcast, where we chat with your favorite entrepreneurs about their passion projects, hobbies, and deep interests that keep them in it for the long game. Today, we are here with Reef Colman, who is the founder and CEO of WeAssist.io. They serve as international headhunters for high-level executives looking for executive assistants with AI background and knowledge. Welcome to the show, Reef.
Thank you, Brittany, for having me. Yeah,
Uh,
pleasure. Pleasure's all mine.
you you look wonderful outside, and my New Yorkerness is jealous that it's warm enough for you to be out there.
It's not bad out here, you know? It's
Where
good.
are you right now?
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
All right. Yeah, so definitely warmer than where we are.
You have to be indoors. Outdoors is, you could die. Like,
A little
it's-
chilly. Yeah.
yeah.
So I mentioned here in your bio that you are the founder and CEO of WeAssist.io, which we'll learn a little bit about at the end here. But what I
Mhm.
also know about you and what we're here to chat about is you have this deep passion for feeding families.
Mhm.
So I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell me where that started for you, and we'll lead into like how it's manifesting now, but just tell me like the inception of that for you.
Yeah, interesting. I've always kind of had a weird affinity with food, maybe because of my grandma. And I'll express this in a way that I think maybe lands for Spanish demographics. Abuelita was very much the person that, loved you through food, you know? Her love language was like, but yeah, she was almost manipulative about it. I love her to pieces. She would say sometimes like, Mijo, when I die, you'll miss me. You'll miss my food, you know? So she'd guilt you into eating and finishing everything. So a big portion of, I think, my connection of love and caring through food came from my grandma. Yeah, I think there's something very beautiful about a meal. And it's such a core principle. When you experience something like hunger, no one should experience hunger. You feel like, oh, this is a common need that everyone should have sufficed, should have filled, not having to feel hunger. And food is such a beautiful thing, there's only very few things that we have as intimate a relationship as food with, like our lovers, we put our lovers in our mouth, our hands, and food, like that's a pretty small bracket of things that we do with our mouth, it's a very unique space. And food can be an experience. It can also just be something to fill you nutrient wise, but it also could be full scope, a wonderful all in experience. So I find food to be a very beautiful thing. In college, I ran a homeless ministry, did that for like 9 months. Would take meals out to people and give them out. Um, that was pretty cool. Um, yeah, it's just always had a place in my heart. I don't know. Yeah.
So in college you ran that program as well. So tell me like was serving others like part of your upbringing? Was that like a focus that was placed in you early on? Like you're here to help other people as well? Or is that something that you kind of developed like along the way?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I think we have to be very honest with ourselves, and who we are and what we are. You have to know your ego and be able to dance with your ego and love your ego. On my end, I'm fully aware that for me helping other people, it fills my ego, makes me feel better as a human being. I truly enjoy knowing that I can serve others, and you fulfill self with that. You should have a healthy dance with your ego. Example, I hope to Oh, there's kids that join the pool downstairs. Oh, shoot. Should I put headphones on?
We don't hear them right now, but yeah, if you want to later,
You guys
yeah.
are crazy. You let me know. If you do hear it, give me a heads up.
Yeah.
Um, I love kids, so they're cool. Yeah. To be able to scream like that at the top of your lungs and not care what other people say, we don't do that as adults anymore. Ah!
No.
Yeah. I think we need to have a healthy dance with our ego. The example, one of my ego goals and dreams is to have built more schools than any other human before I die, for civilization and humanity. Feeding people, getting to 1 million of families fed. Yeah. If you have a healthy relationship with your ego, you can do great things with it, and they can impact the world and make the world a better place. People shy away from ego, they're scared of ego death, etc. Ego death is a dangerous thing, ego death, death of pride, or needing to be right, those are probably good to kill off, but the death of the ego is no good. You want to you want to have a healthy dance with your ego, so for me, I think learning that I really liked giving to people and pouring into people, I think is important. I love watching people smile, and also understanding like it comes from a response for survival. The survival response is if I make people happy, then I have utility, That's a
Mhm.
true, utility of why some people are overly nice or overly good or overly these things. They have this need to be very good to other people because it's a utility for them, a survival mechanism to say, hey, I know you won't, I'm not expendable if I do all these things for you.
Yeah.
Um, I've luckily grown past that to understand, I just want to do the good for people for good, to be good and serve the world. Um, and I think I had to draw that to a bigger mission and vision when I recognized that some of these things did come from a survival response. And I don't want them to be from a survival response, but rather, how can I serve people and love on people, but still make it so that it has a larger impact? And I attach it to a generational exchange. I think the most humbling and beautiful thing a human being can do and selfless is to plant a seed in which the shade they'll never feel from, like you'll never benefit from that shade, but to know that you were the one that planted the seed, a future generation will sit under that tree and thank you for it. Um, so that's helped me kind of, sorry, that was long-winded, face myself, face my humanity, who I am, be like almost brutally honest with my own humanity and my own sapienhood, who I am as a human on this planet, and then understanding what do I need to attach that to that's a much bigger scope and vision of me that is beyond me. I think we all need a purpose that's beyond us or bigger than us. I think that's what when humans thrive, when they have a much bigger, thing before them. For me, it's we don't know what consciousness is. We don't know what is human consciousness is. There's so many questions to be answered. Yeah, we should pursue that, and we should try to make consciousness as great as possible for the next generation so they can have more tools to potentially get closer to answering some of those questions, and in hopes that maybe in 2 3 5 10 generations we figure out some of these big ethereal questions that we have of the universe. Yeah.
It sounds like you've done so much work internally and like so much deep thought about like ego and who you are and humanity as a whole and like why we're here, what we're doing here. Like, it sounds like you've done a lot of that work. So, where did that start for you? Like, was that something that you were always curious about, like growing up, or did you study? Like, you're kind of sounding like you're reminding me of my brother. We talked about this earlier. Like, he studied philosophy in college, so like that was like he was very, deep thinker. So I'm curious where that started for you.
Yeah, where did that start for me? Hmm. Yeah, I think I've for the most part been a very inquisitive human. I've been a very curious person, and I think yeah, the curiosity, people's answers were never enough, for me. I love ChatGPT, the era of AI, because I can ask it so many questions that get such well thought out answers. Um, like I remember hearing, even talking to consultants sometimes, or hearing somebody and being like, this is the best data that you have, it's not the best data in existence. There's maybe very small handful of those humans that exist. Um, I've just always been a hyper curious, uh, being. I don't know. I think there's so many. When a child asks why, and they
Hmm.
go, why? I can't wait to have my first kid, and sit down with them and be like, oh, you know what? I don't know, buddy. Yeah, let's figure this out. I don't know, sweetie. Let's sit down and figure this out. Let's get on Google, ask why, or chat or AI, whatever it be. Why? Let's just go down the rabbit hole. So I'm excited to teach them the process of discovery. I think is really exciting, and sit down with them and be lost in the curiosity of I don't know. I see parents that go, why? I don't know. Okay. Because it is the way it is. And they get frustrated and walk away. Of course, shout out to parents. I'm not a parent, so I can't imagine having a little being next to you that you can't ever dispose of. They're just like there 24/7. So, yeah, I totally, I'm not having walked that path yet. So I'll give you some more data when I do. But I'd like to think that I'll walk that path with a lot of curiosity alongside of them. That's the hope. And say, yeah, love your why. Yeah, ask more why. We stop asking why as adults. We just kind of think we know, or we get to a point where we don't want to bother someone else for asking. It almost becomes off-putting to ask questions. People almost become defensive. Like, why are you asking me? Like, why not just believe me? I found to stay away from those kind of people, period. That's just like my internal mantra. Um, but kids are so good at asking why. I just continue asking why through life. I kind of take some of the principles that youth have. They're fearless. Their imagination is wonderful. It's robust. It's grandiose. They are superheroes. They can fly. They can do all these things. In their mind. And us, we limit ourselves to, man, I hope I have an apartment. I hope I have a cubicle. I hope I have a job. I hope I have a paycheck. And we stop soaring, with the superheroes. We stop being our own superhero at some point, and society kind of puts us in that box. And I refute it. I kind of push against it. Like, we can all be our own superheroes. We should all have our hero scripts. We should all have our moments in life when we've done great things that we should be proud of. And they're subjective to us. They're not objective. They're like, what have we done in wonderful ways? And I think that big question of why is a beautiful thing. Like, my hero script, I recite to myself almost every morning, like what I've done, like good that I've done, and how far I've gotten and where I've come from. Brain thinks 80% negative, 20% positive. We have to do the extra work of making it positive. Like, it takes time, energy, and effort. It's not passive. It takes hard work to be a good sapient and a good human. So I think we should reward ourselves for that. So yeah, for me, it's always been a function of curiosity. And I just have bigger questions, and I think that the answers we have aren't enough, and I think that's okay. And I think instead of being like, oh yeah, well, that's just the way it is. No, that's the way it is for now. Like, yeah, physics
Yeah.
was the way it was. Theory of relativity was the way it was for now. And now we have quantum mechanics that has hit the scene, which was around at the same time as, physics. Einstein and quantum mechanics were around at the same time. We just didn't have the infrastructure or the instruments to be able to measure the quantum world at that time. So physics was claim number one. And our very must win driven society. One must win, one must conquer. So the relativity won. But unsung heroes of the last, those are my heroes, the last 60, 80, 120, 130 years, scientists that have made advancements in quantum mechanics in a basement that no one cared about, that died with no glory. They're now the platform we stand on, for the double slit experiment, all wonderful things that are coming in the quantum world. So yeah, I just curiosity and the wonder of those beautiful, curious humans is what brings us here. So I think we should be more curious. I love my curiosity. I think for me, it was curiosity. I think we should acknowledge more scientists and engineers and have them be our heroes of our society. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That curiosity, I find as a common denominator in a lot of entrepreneurs. And in a lot of entrepreneurs, I also find that it was tough for them in school or like in certain situations because systems are not designed to support curiosity
Yeah.
often.
No.
So I'm curious what you're already laughing. I'm curious what your experience was that with that.
Yeah. Let me crack my back here because feels good. Um, yeah. School was rough for me. I kind of, yeah. Curiosity, right? Let's not have victim scripts. Let's not say it was rough for me. The school was interesting. I think if you look at the framework of school, the Henry Ford mechanism of the Industrial Revolution, right? Uh, the systematic, process of school, created an ecosystem that needed to get scientists, office workers, mathematicians, etc. And so the arts were never really explored. It's more of like hey, here's uh, a an elective, in a class rather than like here's a full course on it. And maybe your brain does work in that realm. And not expressing to kids that creating an operational schema or an org chart is a work of art. It's just a different way of art of the brain. That you're capturing. Mathematics is art, but just a different format of art. We're expressing just in different ways. Writing, etc. So then when you look at the system and the process that was created for education, you start to realize, okay, this Henry Ford, system of by age, by school, by grade, go, by size, this grouping was just a function of that. How do you make society? Yeah, another big one is, we're doing society for the first time as a species. Yeah, so have a lot of grace towards humanity and the things that happened, because it's, who are you going to blame? Like, today's the first day Brittany Lewis is doing February 27th at 11:23 a.m., in Arizona time, let alone East Coast time, which is like 1:23, right? I think. And Reef Colman is doing, Reef Colman for the first time in human history, February 27th, 11:23. And, Sonder is one of my favorite words in the sense that, everyone else is experiencing the same thing, which kind of blows your mind, it makes me chuckle a little bit. Yeah, having grace for humanity and how human beings operate, and we're doing the best we can with what we have, is what you'd like to think. Some of those things must be questioned and must be challenged, and it's the curiosity part. And I've always kind of challenged the educational system. I thought it was so interesting how we were grouped, bracketed, and pushed. So for me, a big portion of how I see school and my school experience was I did the best with what I had, and I learned incredible tools. I was put in special needs classes. As you probably people probably don't know that because of my ADHD. I was just like unbearably energetic. I couldn't be held down. I had some experiences with selling Pokemon cards, selling lunch, selling treats at lunch, chocolate bars, candies, uh, quite a few things that I moved around as a youth to try to survive. I went from a not so good school district, San Gabriel Valley, to Arcadia School District, which is a very good school district, a heavily Asian population, really good at mathematics. I was just learning my addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and getting into like, here are the functions of it, when in the school I transferred into, they were doing math minutes. They were like, how fast can you do this? And I was like, dude, I can't do a sheet. I suck, and these kids are like pump one sheet after another out, and get another one. They get extra credit, and there was a star system on the board, I remember, and people would have their stars, and everyone's like, oh, sick, and I didn't get stars, and I was like, oh, not a star, and but I used humor. I utilized humor again. The human species is all about survival and self-preservation. So I used humor to, get along with people, make friends, compensate for my lack of ability in school. And it wasn't until seventh grade, Mr. Smith, who saw me and just saw that I was a little out there, a little different, was like, here, do this. And he gave me a board, a piece of wood. Shout out, Mr. Smith. You're awesome, man. Oh, I got tingles there. Very warm feeling for that man. Wonderful human. It's crazy how some people in life will touch our lives in ways that we don't even recognize, So important to be good humans to everybody, because you never know who you're going to impact. It's like a key principle of mine for life. You never know the ripple effect of that. He had a board, and in the board he'd put little nails, and he would have me string, the string back and forth to make a 3D representation of arcs, and graphs. And then he would make me send the formula. So I'd have to write the formula down on a piece of wood and give it to him, and he'd give me extra credit for that, so that I accounted for my schoolwork, because I was really bad at doing homework. Like, I just wouldn't complete it. I didn't have fun with it. So I started making a bunch of them, and a lot of them, and a lot of them, and a lot of them. He's like, you're getting really good at this, and I had a blast with it. I'll probably, truth be told, I'll probably do something with that as a fun art piece to give out to people at some point in life, because it's such a pivotal moment in my humanity as a sapient. It's kind of a turning point for me. I realized, it's not that school is boring. The way it's done is boring. Mathematics isn't boring. It's a language like any other. You just get to learn that language, and then, probably most important language in the known universe. It transcends language. It transcends our planet. It's universal in the sense that to quantify things or count 1, 2, 3 is a universal ideal and need. There's no species, I think, on the face of our universe that could potentially not exist without mathematics. They would need to have a formula for things. And when you think about that at a grander scheme, they would have to be able to say, one plus one is two, or how to articulate flight or engineering, et cetera. It's all a function of math at the end of the day. It might have another name under it, but they're all formulas, right? Interesting how maybe other people or other species articulate it, but if there are other species, but math is so key to our survival and our species that I found a love for it. So my school career was interesting, but I had wonderful teachers that kind of expanded my thought, and like it doesn't have to be this way. It can be a little different. And that took me down kind of the path of, trying to figure out how to get through school. It became a game, not doing homework, how could I get by? How could I kind of slide under the radar, but have a good time, laugh, and just get the grades I needed to pass.
Yeah.
Uh, so I excelled in that. That I got really good at, getting out of work. I got really good at getting out of work, which is probably why I'm a good entrepreneur, in a weird way, that and chaos. I had a lot of chaos as a youth growing up in my household. So people think things are falling apart. I'm like, oh, it's all right. We're good. Life is good. SpongeBob meme. So yeah, school was very interesting. I don't think it's made. I think if we were to reassess a lot of our species, school education, the indoctrination of our youth and what we help them understand is probably the most important thing that we do, and it shouldn't be subjected to a 30-to-1 classroom with someone that's underpaid and potentially has very dangerous ideals that have indoctrination power. We should also come to a society and a species that has a more collective understanding of what's the most important thing and what should we focus on as a species for future generations. And I think that's we're probably a generation or two away from that. It would need to have an evolution of thought and people. And I think a larger humanity would have to say, you know what, these are the ideals that matter most. There are things that we fight that are arbitrary in our species, that are silly. They're like, what are you doing? Like we fight over dirt. If an alien species looked at us, they would be like, you're idiots. You fight over dirt. You're like, what? This is the only rock you live on. Why are you not understanding that you have this tiny rock flying through space at 22,000 miles an hour, around a sun, flying into the cosmos, you're on a Milky Way galaxy, on a disaster course to the Andromeda galaxy. Like, you have, there's far bigger things to worry about than like, hey, your land is 1 foot over from mine, but it seems so,
Right.
we're just so, rather than, yeah.
Is So this is so interesting to me because you mentioned like you have the desire to like build schools and like have that be part of your mission. So like when you're envisioning building these schools, are you envisioning also like kind of reimagining the way that those schools operate? Or like are you saying like operating within the certain infrastructure that we have now and just giving kids more opportunities to be involved in school? Like tell me kind of where that mission started.
Yeah, for me, I think education is the single most important thing that a person could get, even though I had an interesting upbringing with school, like We Assist is really surrounded around education. I want to create an educational platform, but realized that I couldn't, create another educational platform. Who wants that? So I created an HR and headhunting platform. So now I have a group of people and human beings, and then with those human beings, I can start instilling some ideals and be like, hey, here's like some learnings that we could do on human development, child development, financial literacy, agree and disagree, having hard conversations, you know, AI tools. What are the things that we learn as people that are studied after college? You know,
Mm.
Self-help books, how to be better humans, emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, those types of things. Those are the ethereal things that we don't learn in school that are so key to development. So a big portion of what I do is for education, but how that education is done is a little different. Like I pay people to get educated. I think we should all get paid to go to school. I think we should all get paid to learn. I think we should all have a start with a salary for education, and say, hey, you're going to school, here's your dollar amount. Right now it's paid to a school system, which horribly misuses it, and it's absurd. And then you have these weird things coming through a pipeline, and you're like, oh, what the heck? Rather than putting the money back in the kids' hands and saying like, hey, maybe this will help your family. Hey, that'll incentivize families to make their kids go to school. It's like, hey, for every day you go, you show up, it's $40, $80, whatever it is, the $20. Now it's money back into a family and a family dynamic. Families that are doing well, kids get to use it too wherever they want. families are struggling, use it towards food. You get to learn the power of money at a very young age. Um, I think education should be more one-on-one, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 5 groups rather than this, ethereal 1 to 30. And I think teachers should be rotated, and have different ideas. And we should ask kids, what's your favorite learning style and pathway? AI's got some amazing tool sets now where, yeah, I saw a video recently where a little girl was on a video with an AI, and the AI stopped halfway through the lesson and said, what's your favorite animal? And she said, octopus. And she said, why? And she said, because it's got 2 hearts, and she said, awesome. The AI responded, what we're going to be doing today with math is very similar to the octopus, 1 brain to 8 arms. That's a fraction, 1/8. And I thought, wow, like what a great way to translate an educational piece to make it land and be forever ingrained in a youth's mind and heart. And I see tools like that, and I think how fascinating that AI tools could be used for a very positive thing, in near future. So my want is just to build the buildings and kind of create the structure of it. I don't ever want to be a person that enforces this is how it has to be done, because I think that's incorrect. I think this is my perspective. This is what I've learned thus far. This is what's worked for me. Is a great place for people to stand on. Hey, this is what maybe you're figuring out something that I haven't figured out yet. Explore. Be free to explore. But we should have some core principles that are attached to that. Like, how is this bettering future generations? What's your end result and end outcome? Are you trying to make humanity better here? Are you trying to prolong our core ideals as a species? And I think we'll get there once we start asking the question of each other, what unites us rather than what divides us. Right now we're very divisive, black, white, Spanish, Asian, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Catholic, Mormon, Christian, Muslim, whatever. Like, it's all very silly, like American, Canadian, which flag are you, like it's all one giant species under one sun on one rock. As soon as we figure out that we're all trying to figure it out, then we'll have a much different conversation. I think the conversation will be around what unites us as a species. Like, we all have brains, we all have hearts, we all have blood pumping through our bodies. We all have a need to be healthy. We all should be at the best possible health that we can be in. We should all be exploring what our kids are doing, what the next generation should be doing. We should all be exploring space, ocean, brain, these things that we haven't figured out yet, and have curious questions. What's the best framework? Not because we've done it this way for so long, we're still doing it. No, what's the best possible framework that other people are using? Drop ego and say, maybe we should adopt that, see how that works. And let's share data and analytics and see what's working best. We all have a want for our offspring to do better than us in future generations. We all have a want to have a roof over our heads, comfortable living. We all want to have fun. We all want to explore our hobbies and the things that we want to do. These are all pretty ingrained in our humanity, for the most part. Of course, there's edge cases of people that stand out and maybe are not like that. And that's fine. There's always going to be a small percent that you have to leave for error, or not error, but different, but for the most part, humanity can align with quite a few central goals that could say, yeah, you know what, this makes sense, and have that be more of a template of what we seek after, especially when we start thinking like, hey, how are we redefining education, or people's senses. So create the building, let them explore, create until something comes out that says, hey, this is the best that we've seen for this current time, yeah.
I'm resonating so much with what you're saying. I grew up homeschooled. My mom homeschooled me, and I have met several homeschoolers now in the entrepreneurial world, and we all have that experience of like, we were at like a very young age, I was managing my schedule. Like, I could wake up whenever I wanted, I could do my school whenever I wanted, but it had to be done in order for me to go do something else. So like, I really early on was like self-managing. And I know a lot of kids, like when they got to college who didn't have that experience, struggled because it was like, now there's no one like right over me doing the thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's so interesting when you're talking about like smaller class sizes and this individualized, not everyone is in a position where they could be homeschooled by a parent, but we do have tools now like AI that allow us to have that experience. So I think that that is such a cool advancement in technology. There's so much like fear around AI, and then there's so much hope and excitement around AI. So what do you think about, obviously your company's around AI. So like tell me what your thoughts are about AI and like how it is integrating with humanity that you're so passionate about.
Yeah, I love that. Great question. I think at a certain point we have to remove ourselves from the equation. My thought doesn't even matter anymore. Look at data. If we really look at human history, we went from like cavemen and cavewomen, walking the jungle, and if it was me, myself, and you, and a third party with us walking down the jungle floor, and we saw red grapes and blue grapes. We had to go, one had to eat red grapes, one had to eat blue grapes. Whoever didn't die or pass out, hopefully neither one of us, but then the third person would be like, okay, I can eat these, without any words, just, kind of going at it without getting sick. Communication hyper evolved that. We were able to say, good, good, bad, bad, like eat, don't eat. Then you go to, have it wanting to share stories, tribal leaders, the oldest, share these fables. The fables grew over time. The fireplace was a fire was our first TV, essentially, sharing these stories. And so evolution hyper evolved again because we were able to communicate. And then you had pictographs and wall paintings, and people were like, oh, let me tell these stories so we can, this is a very important story. We should put this one down for other people to see, So you had first journaling and first data entry, Now you have take that off the wall and someone wanted to carry it. So they had tablets, and then chisel and stone. And then there's a time when papyrus paper came on the scene, and papyrus paper, people were like, this is dumb, this is flimsy, it's paper, it falls apart, how silly, how stupid, and I can destroy it, and if you look back at human history, when's the last time you chiseled anything? I haven't, it just kind of made by its wayside, and people push back. They're like, no, we've had chiselers for thousands of years, hundreds of years, we've had a chisel and stone. This chiseler has been in our family for years. Look at this mallet, there's a whole economy behind it, and now we just don't do it. We have paper and pencil. Fast forward, going further, you have the written hand, scribes, Renaissance era, people writing books, and then you have the printing press that comes out, and people were like, no, you'll lose the touch of the human interaction and the writing of this book and what it's like, and it's like, okay, cool. When's the last time you read anything that wasn't written by your hand? That wasn't a note that someone left for you. Like it's just rare. Someone sends a text. So there's a whole society that had to evolve past that. People died, whole industries died, whole companies, etc. Evolution. The question is no longer what I think about it. It's look at data, how it's happening, and adapt quickly. And if you want positive to happen, then adapt faster than the negative. Be good in what you're doing. A tool is a tool, it's a tool, The same way the printing press was just a way to move what our thoughts were on off of paper and mass produce it. We were able to mass produce information, and now we went to computers and phones and AI, more production of information, data collection, data aggregates, sharing a collective unison of data, all the books in the known universe at the touch of our fingertips, and all the data that we need. And so, this aggregation of data and this evolution of data, the question is not, what I think of it or where I fall on it. It's, what are you going to do with the tool? So I think the question you pose is a great one, but humans should look at it more as like, what am I going to do now? If I have the ability to, utilize and harness these tools just like anybody else and learn these tools. Oh, what up, buddy? Oh, I thought it was a dog.
He's trying to be stealth.
No, dude, walk through. Have a good time. Life is good. How are you?
Great. You did great.
Crushed it. You're awesome, brother.
This is welcome to Manhattan. We live in a little.
Yeah, there's not a lot of. I have friends in New York. Gonna say there's not a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said about AI tools and just learning and evolving with them. And being on the bright side of what AI could do. And I think that only happens if people adopt it quickly, and instead of being afraid of it, acknowledge that it's happening. The people that are afraid of innovation and change are, I want to make sure I say this correctly. Yeah, so the people that are afraid of innovation and change are structurally dangerous for our society in some ways. They hold back society rather than move society forward. They're not in curiosity. They're in, hey, it works the way it is right now. Why change it? Why move it? Rather than saying, progression is what could we, they forget that the reason why they're there today is because someone progressed the earlier, They forget that there was like there's a past to them, and their present is because of that past that innovated to their present. So we must give, innovation to the future from our present and be along that innovation, the innovative curve. So I think, yeah, with AI could be a beautiful tool for our species. Absolutely wonderful, if we utilize it well. There's some dangers behind it, obviously, some big ethereal dangers. We have to have it quarantined, we have to have some way of being able to stopgap these things, just so important. I love the fast walk. It's such a yeah, I think that we do have to have these ways of, managing these tools. And it's the first time in human history where we're creating something that is going to outsmart us. We've created a lot of things in our species, but nothing like this. So we should be cognitive of that, but also be aware of, what we could do with it and how it, how powerful it could be. I think there's a lot of, you're going to get to a place with the imaginatives and the ideas and the thinkers and the tinkers are going to have a place to create, where before you'd have to have a startup cost, find an engineering team, talk other people into it, fight egos, whatever you had to do. Now someone with an idea could literally just speak it into existence, and it's getting closer and closer to full gap, beginning to end, idea to full execution. So yeah, it's a beautiful time to be alive as a species. Everyone else says, there's the romantics that are like, oh, I should have been born in the 70s, which I used to think a lot too. I was like, oh, 70s are so cool. I was made for a different era. Reef Colman was made for a different era. And I've now, thanks to the power of now, letting go and the surrender experiment, great books. I love reading books. Those are wonderful reads. They really do emphasize like, now is a beautiful time. You only have your now. So instead of living in the past, which is, regret and depression, or living in the future, which is anxiety and, and angst, live in the now and explore how beautiful your now is. I'm sitting out in Arizona looking at two succulents. I'm hearing waterfalls and kids playing in the pool to my left. I'm watching a mountain range over there, Tom's Thumb, as a rock formation. I got palm trees. Like, my now is wonderful. I'm talking to a great human being with a great mind, someone sneaking around the back, having a good time, boyfriend just chilling out there. Life is wonderful. Like, life is now. It's a beautiful experience. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm hearing like it's like your perspective is like these are all tools that we've had, like the printing press and like all these things that we've had evolutionarily, like that have grown us as a species. They're tools, and like humans are using the tools. So like it's like us that we like need to continue to evolve and have this like curiosity based mindset and allow us to use the tool to like do what we need to do with it rather than like the tool being inherently like this thing that is could be bad or like is gonna dictate something. It's like we're using it. So we have the power to like do something cool with it or not. So what would you say is like a step that we could take? Like if someone's fearful about AI or like closed off to that possibility, like what's a step that could like make someone more curious about it or like make someone more like interested in it in a way that like, hey, this could actually be beneficial to me. Like, what's something small that someone could do to open themselves up to that?
Yeah. If they want to, I would say, number one, they can reach out to me on any platform. And my executive assistant will drop them into a call. I'm doing group calls I just taught my buddy the other day how to use these AI tools, ChatGPT, and talk into it. Blew his mind, and now he's utilizing for everything. So I really want to help demographics, probably the 30s to 60s, 70s, really get onto AI tools. So if anybody listens to this and knows somebody like a parent or whatever, I want to jump on a call. I want to do group calls, help. Like, I taught my mom how to Google. I'm now teaching her how to chat GPT, because it'll help her. It'll make our species better. It'll actually give more data to these tools to understand, okay, this is how other like older demographics are using it, like their point of view or how they're working through it. Uh, so I think that's really important. Don't mind helping people through that process. I think that the conversation is going to be around like humans utilizing AI, tools for their life and personal and business. things like I put my blood tests into ChatGPT and how to create my supplement protocol and how and when I should take it. What are the best supplements to take? The ones that less that were not tested on animals, that don't have animal byproduct in them, fillers that are just the best possible nutrients, and I got a list of that, So, big data works really, really well. To expand on your earlier point, I think if as a human you look at everything in our existence as a tool, everything, doesn't matter what it is, everything is a freaking tool, for your better or for your worse, drugs, tool, money, tool, your ego, tool, your emotions, tool, everything in our species and our consciousness at our fingertips, at our disposal is a tool. We have a very powerful thing in our head. We have a brain. The brain is the only organism in the known universe that's named itself. Like, that's a fascinating ideal. Talk about something that'll mess your brain. Yeah, yeah. Like, right. Like your stomach wasn't like, I'm a stomach. Like, liver wasn't like, I'm a liver. Your brain was self-actualizing. It said, I'm going to call myself brain. I'm going to study myself. I don't know what I am yet entirely or fully, but I'm going to study myself. And then I'm going to name everything around me and categorize it. Sick, starting with me, brain, next. Got plant, rock, water. So, these things are probably not in that order, obviously, but we probably figured out we had a brain before, after we figured out rock and water. But I think that's, we have the most powerful organism in the known universe in every single one of our skulls. We lose the concept of that. We've lost thought of that. We've lost sight of that. We are the most powerful, organism in the known universe to our current reach, like our observational reach. That is a huge responsibility, and we've lost that responsibility. We've lost the knowledge that we are important, that we are valuable, that we are strong, we are capable, we are able, that we can, and I think the more we can enforce that to our youth and empower them, the better next generation will have, to let them know that, hey, all good and all bad is in your hands. Understand the same power that you have to say, I love you, I care about you, baby, honey, sweetie, baby, is the same mouth that can say, I hate you, die, you're worthless, you suck, etc. Same hands that can hold a baby and nurture a child and a youth and say, hey, I love you, and loved ones, and hold them and care for them and caress, are the same hands that can, pick up a hammer and bludgeon somebody, or murder another human being, or push someone, or inflict damage. Like, it's in us. It's within us. Like, we have to overcome the sapient experience. Like, we have to understand our own sapienthood, and say, like, what does this mean for our future generations? How do we create that? Everything's a tool. Every last thing is a freaking tool for our consciousness. And we get to create with all the colors of the universe. There's no limitations to our ability. Where the question is no longer if it'll happen, but when, teleportation used to be something on, like, Star Trek. You'd be like, oh, yeah, that'll never happen. That's crazy. And now you're like, we're really just a function of atoms, just, portrayed differently. Your atoms in one way, that microphone you have before your very face is the same atoms, carbon molecules that you were made out of, just, created differently, so now you're like, oh shoot, at our core root, we're actually not that different from all the things around us. Is there possibly a way to be able to print these things? We have 3D printers now. Like, what stops something from digitally printing us and reprinting us somewhere else? We're living in a time of no longer if, but when. The questions are no longer if, but when. Time travel, when, how, teleportation, when, how, these things are more when we'll fly, when, how, times are before us that are exponential. They're no telling what we can do in the future. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
I love I love how forward thinking you are in a way that is like accepting of the now, because I think that that's an interesting line to walk of like we can look into the future and be like there's all like this is going to go somewhere really cool and I want to be there, and then be like discontent with now, or like so far out of the now that you're like only focused there. And I feel like you've done a really cool job of like accepting the reality of like being in the now and being in the present and also being excited for the future. Do you feel like that distinction between those things?
Uh, yeah, I think, I deal with anxiety and depression. So very astute of you. So I've had to understand, I have a principle list for what to look out for, on depression and anxiety. Um, Being very content with the now and saying, like, now is beautiful. I think I think the formula, the equation a person must understand is their function of now is the future. Your function of right every single moment or instance is your future. You know, like that's a huge responsibility and ownership. You know, the more you sit, the more you wander, the more you know, whatever. So is the future. You know, whatever the function is of now, or whatever the input of now is your future. You know, that's just kind of an easy formula to create, and it's really given me like a my now is so important. It's so beautiful. It's released me from the tension of past and future. It's like, now it's so good, you know? If I want to rest now, cool, rest. If you want to go surf now, cool, surf now, you know? If you want to go work and build something and make it better tomorrow, now is the right time to do it, you know? The now is so important. And I think, you know, in order to really be in love with the now, you have to be in love with the future. Like, wow, you know, what is my now doing? What could it do? And that's an important thing to really focus on. Because if you don't have a future scope or a goal, you know, when was the last time you Googled a destination nowhere? Yeah, it just doesn't happen. You know, we are humans that need to have a direction, you know, or a species that need to go on Google Maps and be like, all right, I need to go here, Palladium, you know, going. Yeah, if you don't have that, you know, then you don't know where you're going. You're kind of like aimless. Some people choose to do that. That's really fine, you know, kind of like let life guide them and see what experiences will take them where. And that's totally within, you know, the power of each person, each human or each sapien. But I find that there's such a beauty in knowing like there's a future out there that I can see. And I imagine with my imagination, the colors of my imagination. I want to talk to other people that are also coloring with all the colors of the universe of their imagination and saying like, hey, what are you working on to try to get to that? You know, I wonder where ours blend over. Or I wonder where they don't blend over. You know, I think that's very beautiful. Yeah, I've worked very hard on being conscious of now. You know, I think for a human to be very well rounded, you must have a very good concept and understanding of all the good and all the evil of our species, you know, the dark and the light, you know. You must know both sides of the coin. Otherwise, you're not fully functional. You know, you don't have all the data to make good assertions or, you know, good discernment. You know, you're maybe too idealistic, maybe too in the clouds and like, oh, everyone's good. No, not true. You know, everyone's bad. No, not true. People are people. There's good and bad. You have some people behavioral patterns. Where does that come from? The better question is why. You know, why does that exist? You know, the way that it does, and how can we hedge our bets against that? You know. So I think having a full scope picture of the good and the bad really helps you be a very good discerning human to create good protocols, good ideals, good future platforms for people because you're fully honest and aware with the things that could be. You know, you're not just like in some sort of like Candyland kind of deal. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's beautifully put, and it is intentional in the way that you have put um, awareness on now because I have struggled with anxiety my whole life as well. And
Cool.
that
I
has
love you.
been
I love
my,
your heart. And I fully understand. Yeah. Tell me more.
it has been such a struggle because that's always the number one advice, right? Like anxiety lives in the future, depression lives in the past. So stay in the now. That's like the standard, advice to deal with those things.
For years. Yeah.
But it is so, I'm not gonna say difficult, but it is so for someone who is like my mind has always been like what is the next objective, what is the next thing that I need to be doing, now has always felt underproductive to me. Like it's always felt like if I'm just here then I'm not doing all the things I need to be doing, like, and that the way you just put it is very now becomes productive because now is something that's repeated into the future. And
Mhm.
so it's a cool way, it's a cool distinction. So thank you for that. And I want to focus on something you have in the future, which is really cool. The Families Feed Challenge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell me about that because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, there's two. One, your anxiety thing. I really hope I've been told constantly to create a coaching program, and I've never really done a program or anything like that. But I think I'm on the verge of creating something for people to help with kind of like how I've navigated my brain and giving these functional formulas that are just, I call them reframes, like reef frames, like these like reframes of life. Um, and there's simple ones, because I think you hear these things that are so ethereal, like don't live in the past, don't live in the future, live in the now. And you're like, and you almost feel like an idiot because you're like, okay, I've heard it, I get it, but it's not working, like what do you mean by that, but creating an actual functional formula for the brain to say, okay, why is now key? How do I put these like three functions together to create, yeah, the formula, the equation, the outcome that I want, you know? That's really something that I try to focus on because my brain is so curious and has a why. Then I'm like, why? I don't get that. Yeah, I
Mhm.
want to be worried about the future. Like I need to be worried about the future. Like the future is happening, and I need to do more now, now. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. And then your brain floods, you know. But rather, yeah, then going, okay, the future is very important. So I get that. That's why I have so much focus on it. And I keep hearing that the now is all that you're, you know, responsible for. Can I do anything about the future? Yeah, I can't, you know, in the now. That's the only function that I have is the now. And that puts like a nice weight on the now. Now the trick is, not having anxiety about my now, you know, which is like a whole other game to play, which is like, oh, the now must be a certain way. Uh, you know, the Surrender Experiment was a great read for that. Highly recommend. Wonderful read. Letting Go was also a great read for me in those two functions. Um, realizing that, the things are just happening as they're happening, and there's going to be, chaos, there's going to be problems, issues, havoc that happens. Sometimes you're going to have really good things happen. Sometimes you're going to have really bad things happen, but they're just happening, how you address them, how you approach them, how we view them really defines our trajectory as a human being on this rock. Your perspective is the one and only thing that can't be taken from you. Your way of addressing issues. You could be robbed, you could be raped, you could be taken, everything could be taken from you except for your life. But your perspective, is the one thing that can't be taken from you. How you address every single one of those situations. Yeah, my mom was very good at that. She was, um, sexually abused from age 14 to 18, daily almost, and she turned out to be such a wonderful light of a human. I know some people that have one bad encounter and they're like, my life, I'm a victim forever, and they have this mindset. And my mom lived a perpetual, what she could have been a victim the rest of her life. Like my life is woe is me. But she stood on the ground of, I can either let a situation define me or I could define my situation. And holy cannoli, what a power, to give to a youth. She gave me that. My mom, I love you, mother, when she watches this, what a powerful human she is. Um, yeah, I think by having that kind of a function given to you or someone giving you that kind of a superpower, you just look at the world a little differently, and you start to kind of take apart these things that society tells you should be or should be having or how to function with them, and you say, okay, there's some truth to this. How do I apply it to my life? And I think that that's a journey. If you had to ask me, like, what's the true journey of our species, I think future wars shouldn't be fought against other people. They should be fought against ourselves. Like we should find out that the common enemy number one is ourselves, our own ego, our id, our own sapienthood, our own humanity, and that we're just learning how to navigate self. And I think if we all focus on ourselves internally more, we'd create a much more peaceful reality because we'd be more vulnerable with each other. I'd be like, Brittany, you have that crazy thought? That's wild. You have anxiety? So do I. Isn't that maddening? Oh my gosh, you sometimes feel like you want to choke somebody? So do I. That's crazy, like I get that angry, sometimes you feel like, oh, your life just isn't good enough. Man, so do I. How fascinating, sometimes you have these like grandiose ideas that, you could potentially change the world if this one thing worked really well. Man, so do I. Most of our species does, I think that's beautiful. I think that's things that we should talk about and unite on and have conversations on and be like, hey, this is neat, isn't it? I think that, the wars that we fight with ourselves, and if we were more vulnerable with each other and truly told each other like how we were feeling, yeah, I think we'd be able to do telepathy, when you think about somebody and all of a sudden they call out of nowhere and you're like, whoa, I was just thinking about you this morning. You're like, how crazy. Yeah. I think we're the only ones hiding ourselves from true, like unlocking our brains because we're very protective and like, oh, we don't want to know what our neighbors to know our true who we are. I'm a weird human. I'm Reef Colman, I'm an odd duck and I love my freaking reality. And, I'm just doing me, baby. Like whoever's doing that, more power to you. I want to see how you do you because I kind of want to learn from you too. Um, so that's my last little thought there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for this platform. You're awesome. Thank you for creating this ecosystem in space.
Yeah, it's designed for people like you who are curious and have this other thing. We live in a reality where we have to make, money and we need to contribute to our families and pay for things. But we also are humans and we have this other aspect to us that doesn't just 100% get fulfilled by our businesses and our like pursuits. We have this other aspect to ourselves, and
100%.
so I think you've done such a cool, I want to hear about the Family Fed Challenge. You have such a cool aspect there, that feeds into your business. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll do that there. Man, you bring up so many great things. Can I tell you what a mentor once told me? Is that fair? Can I share that in
Yeah.
like 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I had a mentor once tell me, we're all just monkeys chasing entertainment. I think you hit it on the head, Yeah, we're all this just like, some people like drama, some people like building businesses, some people like art, rock climbing, adventure, etc. But we're all just seeking entertainment in one format or another, like fulfilling self, That's kind of a fun function because you think of it that way, you're like, oh, we're all just kind of having fun. We're all playing pretend. I'm playing business owner, I'm playing
Right.
futurist, I'm playing, AI, specialist trying to make the world a better place. I'm playing feeder, like you're playing these roles in humanity, like it's all theater, to props to your boyfriend there, like it's all really just like we're all just in a big act, if you will,
Yeah.
and I think that's a very interesting ideal because there is so much to our species, and there is a common need. I think for me strategically or thinking of the game, if this is a big theater, like you have to ask yourself what is a common root that's necessary. Well, fuel, and what food was before to hunters and gatherers, money is now, to us. And there is a function where we need to figure out how to do, like the game board is do what you love but find a way to monetize what you love so you have a fulfilling life. You figure that equation out, awesome. You can either fight that equation and be like, oh, this is so dumb, or you can learn how to play that equation better than anybody else. Elon Musk did it. He absolutely crushed it. He's like, I'm gonna do PayPal and then invest in Solar City and spaceships and rockets and freaking cars and do all of this that I want to do. And without anybody else's money, I'm gonna put my own money into it. Like what a rock star. Yeah, he said, here's a game board. I'm gonna play the game board better than anybody else. I'm gonna beat the game board and I'm gonna do what I want. That's kind of the mantra that I've taken on. Like here's a game board. It told me I couldn't do impact and be profitable. I was like, yeah, right. Watch this, buddy. Yeah, hold my beer. I don't drink, but yeah, hold my beer. I don't drink often, I should say. I had a drink last night. Uh, but yeah, having like how do you create impact and business and profitability? I created We Assist. I was able to create, an impact-driven business that is profitable, and I was like, it is possible. There you go. Give me my beer back. Watch this. Um, and I think anybody that tells you no is just thinking limitedly, that's limited thinking, like why are they doing what they're doing or saying what they're saying, I think that doesn't make sense, rather you should, be thinking limitlessly of how can you play the game board as is to win at what you want to win. You love theater, you love acting, you love art, you like the ethereal, you like writing, so on and so forth. Let's find a way to figure that out to make it manageable, like there's so many options for people, I have a buddy that I pay $5 a month to because he's traveling the world and he's just like, dude, I collect from friends. I just want $5 a month from you. Cool. Dude's got over 100 people giving him $5 a month. It's silly, but it's like, $500 just from people being like, okay, here you go, buddy. Like, what's $5, And dude is like, I'm traveling, and he's enjoying his best life, trying to figure out more of his reality and humanity. Cool, good on you. So I think that game is very important. To play the game further, I am doing a Families Fed campaign. It is having people help us grow We Assist and placements of people that we feed around the world. One placement is a family fed. Yeah. So one person that we place. The goal is how do you save people domestically and abroad? Essentially, these AI tools are coming fast and people don't know how to utilize them locally. And then you're able to leverage the price point of someone else abroad learning with you, for you, along your side, and growing with you. So I bridge those two people together so they save each other through the AI revolution, essentially, as it's happening right now, just like the industrial revolution. My goal is to feed 1 million families a month. Ambitious goal to do alone, but I think with people and uniting with others, it's capable, it's possible. So I have quite a few people that have said, hey, I want to help with this. And that's unifying them and saying, hey, let's all get together and make this a reality, together. So working on building that out currently. Next year we'll give out an award. That'll be how many families have you fed, essentially affiliates, referrals, marketers, agencies that are plugging us into different companies. I have friends that already sent us like 15, 20 plus, friends, and they're responsible for feeding like 30, 40 families, You multiply that by 4 or 5, you're now looking at a household, which is a number I want to put on there as well. If you're doing 30 families with 4 people in each household, that's 120 lives that you're feeding, from your reach, your impact on this planet. That's a beautiful thing to be a part of. And you're not just giving free food out or money out, you're giving somebody the opportunity to. I feed people around the world. I go and do like feeding projects. I did El Salvador. We gave presents out to like 50 kids, and 50 meals to the families. And we did that in Nicaragua, fed some people. We've also done, Philippines. I love doing stuff like that. Like it's just innate in me. I'm like, it's a day. Let's go feed people. Why not? Here in Scottsdale, Arizona, you name it. My ministry way back when, in college. But I would say that has a limited reach. There's only so much that you can take from somebody and pour down the next hand. You know, there has to be a function of giving somebody a purpose. And I have found that when you give somebody a job, a career path, and they excel in it, they become a society leader. They become a leader in their community. They pour back into others. They make the world a better place. That I think is key to success. That's like the most powerful thing a person can do, in my opinion.
I absolutely love that. Where can people find more information about that and you? Like, how can people get involved if they're resonating with all that?
Oh, I'm an open book. Reach out to me. Reef at weassist.io is my email. Hello at weassist.io is Kate. She's my executive assistant. She's not on here now, but I love her to pieces like Reese's. She's awesome. Yeah, you can go on to any one of my handles is at Reef Colman, Reef like the coral reef, Colman like the camping gear without the E.
Mm.
Every handle I'm in and I have a team in, so you message in there and I get it to you or someone will get to you. It's awesome. Yeah, I just love communicating with people, especially people that want to make the world a better place. Like, come at me. You really have to create a tribe, a culture around this, like around making the world a better place and being part of that, so that future reach. If you want to know my mission statements, my business mission statement is to feed as many people around the world as humanly possible through equally advantageous opportunity. My personal mission statement is to make the world a better place so that future generations can have a better platform to answer some of the questions that we haven't yet answered yet. And my North Guiding Star is how do your inputs today impact the next 2, 5, or 10 generations? And if any one of those mission statements aligns with you and your humanity, reach out to me. I'd love to have a chat and a talk, Yeah, maybe we'll go for a surf or a walk or a hike. Yeah.
Love that. Tell us, as we're wrapping up here, tell us like your one parting piece of advice or parting word for people who are listening to this that are feeling inspired by your creativity, by your perspective on life. Like, what's something that you would tell them to go do now as they're listening to you?
Go. Yeah. Pick up your phone and find the person that has influenced you or impacted you the most and tell them how much their influence has impacted your life in a positive way and thank them for that and have a conversation around that. Uh, and you'll be amazed at how good it'll make your heart feel and you feel as a human being, but also how much you'll edify another person on their journey, you know. And then see what that conversation sparks and creates, and do that often. I think that's a piece of advice that I take. I call my people constantly and tell them how wonderful they are and how grateful and thankful I am for them, and great things come from that. Take action now, you know, uh, download ChatGPT, uh, to start playing with it, pay for the $20 a month. You had to pay $20 for the most brilliant human being on the planet. You should do it. Like it's a no-brainer. And hit me up. Would love to chat with people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. You have been a ball of sunshine and such a wonderful communicator in the way that you, these are really big ideas and concepts that you're talking about, and you do it in such a way that is very tangible and real, and there's an action plan behind it. And so that's so cool to see. So I really appreciate you spending time with us. Thank you.
Thank you for the platform. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.